Okay, so for the next problem we're going to do, it's going to be in age problem, and we're going to do number 12 on page 447. If you look at example, if you pause me now, if you look at example 2, it's going to use some of the same terminology and some of the same techniques that I'm going to use in problem 12. So let's read it first. Cecilia is 24 years younger than Joe. 6 years ago, she was half as old as he was. How old is each now? As usual, if you read it all in one shot, it sounds very complicated, very confusing. However, as usual, we're going to break it up. We're going to organize the information, and we're going to make it quite simple. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about, with age, there's always two time periods we're talking about. We're talking about, either now and in the past, or now and in the future, or sometimes in the past and in the future. And so we first need to figure out what time periods we're going to talk about. So first it says Cecilia is 24 years younger than Joe. That's a now. Okay, so now we have Cecilia and Joe. Okay, so now Cecilia is 24 years younger than Joe. Well, we can talk about, now we can call C, Cecilia's age C, and we can call Joe's age J. And then we're talking about 6 years ago. So 6 years ago, it's important to show C minus 6, J minus 6, because 6 years ago they were 6 years younger. This is one of the most common mistakes that people make when solving age problems, is they don't know, they always plug in the wrong time area. They always plug in the wrong, I don't know what you would call it. They'll plug in the now when they were supposed to be plugging in the 6 years ago. So if you actually make a little quick chart for yourself here to organize that information, it's going to be really helpful in getting you to the right answer. Okay, now that we have the chart about now and 6 years ago, pretty simple to make, we can make our equations. So Celia is, that's a now, Celia is 24 years younger than Joe. Well, she's 24 younger than Joe, so that must mean Joe minus 24, right? So if, for instance, if Joe was 50, she would be 26. So she's 24 younger. So you got to make sure when you're looking at these, well, who's older here? Well, Joe would have to be older. That makes sense. Okay, now let's read the second sentence. 6 years ago, she was. Okay, 6 years ago, she was. Well, she was is an equal sign. Okay, was and is, these are both equals. 6 years ago, she was half as old as he was. Half as old as he was. Okay, the biggest mistake, like I said, would be for someone to throw a J in here instead of the J minus 6, or a C here instead of a C minus 6. Both common mistakes. So really important to make this little now and then chart. Okay, I'm going to star it for you. So we have an equation 1 and equation 2. This looks pretty set up for a substitution once again. So let's solve it that way. So let's go to equation 2. Plug in C. So we have, I should have done different colors, but I didn't, so whatever. So for C, we're going to write J minus 24 minus 6 equals 1/2 J minus 6. Okay, so again, I've rewritten equation 2, but I've substituted the value from equation 1 for C. So I just put that in right here for C. Now we can solve for J. So J minus 24 minus 6 is J minus 30 equals, let's distribute this 1/2 to both terms. We have a fractional thing here, which isn't great, but let's subtract 1/2 J from both sides, leaving us with that. Let's add 30 to both sides, leaving us with 27. Now if we multiply both sides by 2, we're going to get what we think is Joe's age now, which would make Cecilia's age, I don't know, let's go back up. So if Joe is 54, we just plug into the first equation. 54 minus 24 is going to be 30, so we think Cecilia is 30 now. Again, that's what we think, so we're going to go back to the words of the problem, see if that makes sense. Cecilia is 24 years younger than Joe. Yeah, that checks out. 6 years ago, well, 6 years ago, it might be helpful to write out what that would be, 48 and 24. So 6 years ago, she was half as old as he was. Yep, sure enough, that works. They're asking for how old is each now. That means we're looking for these ages circled there. Sometimes they'll ask what were their ages 6 years ago. Or sometimes they'll get real tricky and say what are their ages going to be in 10 years, something like that. So you have to be aware of what time period they're taking you into. I'll stop this video now and then we'll do our last style problem of the fraction style.